Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's almost 7. It's past 7. As you can see from the stream's title today, it's not going to be any Chopin work. We've just gone through 3 of them. Yeah, I was recently talking to my orchestral conductor, and he is thinking about putting together a string quartet, a string quintet, and there will be works that involves piano quintet. So one of my former students, Ryan, was actually qualified for Juilliard pre-college. So the guy is good enough to go to music school, and he ended up choosing WPI as his college education. So of course he joined the orchestra and he plays the double bass. He is a very good player, but there's just not a whole lot for double bass in the chamber literature. So the one that is the most famous that includes a double bass is actually the Schubert Piano Quintet in A major, Quintet number 2, and it's also dubbed the Trout. So if we just play the opening chord, you're not going to recognize what it is. Okay, make sure I play everything right. Like no one recognized this. And then you hear the following, which is... No, something else. So, this will be such a good opportunity to learn, relearn actually all your scales and arpeggios. So I take this as a good opportunity. I can probably only spare at most 1 hour a week to rehearse. But I think as I stream every day, I will practice here and there and see what I lack. I probably just lack all the basic skills. Okay, but Schubert Trout, I'm still waiting for my files to update, so I'm just going to talk about it. So Schubert Trout. This is how the first movement sounds. You absolutely don't know what's happening. Great. It's not supposed to be reminding you of any work that you might heard of. And then here comes the second movement, which I also don't know too much about, because back in, 2008, we played this in the Vancouver High School. We only played the 4th and 5th movement. So, of course, 1, 2, 3 is not as well known. Something like this. So this is the second movement. It's probably a little too fast. That you probably don't get. And also, the third movement is I have to hum it because it's very fast. I cannot play the rest, but this is the third movement, so it sounds a bit more upbeat now. So until you hear the fourth movement, that you will actually know what's going on. So I'll actually play the piano entrance, and you will know what this work is about. And then you have the violin then playing very hard work here. So I have just easy work. And then the piano is actually pretty hard, but I think now you know what the piece is. So this well-known tune is actually the fourth movement of Schubert's Piano Quintet Number 2, dubbed Trout. Trout is a type of fish. I don't know why this is dubbed fish. So this movement in particular is named as a variation. So the theme that you just heard. All my trails feel weird. Yeah, all my trails feel a little weird, so I'm just losing. I'm just losing power now, or lack of practice. That's too much talking, lack of practice. This is the so I kind of sign up for this, so I'm gonna probably play this with the school quintet. I don't know who else they're gonna choose, because I've been at WPI for a good number of years. I've seen how their team, how their entire orchestra has evolved. Some good students graduated. In particular, I think one cello player who was very good has graduated. So I don't know what it's like this year. Viola. Since the conductor is a violist himself, I suppose that he can recognize a good viola talent. Not to mention just any viola player. What else? So we need two good violins, first and second violins. I don't know whether we can find them, because actually the better ones have all graduated. I haven't heard what the group sounds like. But I don't really care at the moment. I think I just need to put together this work. And the piano part is actually no slouch, because it kind of hits me at my weakest point, because there's a lot of unison stuff. So if you hear things like this, I can pull up the score now. Okay, so I guess you rarely. So this is one sample of the work, and you would say you rarely see Schubert's score having more black space than white space. This looks like a work by Liszt, where you mostly see notes. So this is actually a difficult passage for the piano. You see a lot of work here, but if you stare a little bit closer to actually the cello line, I'll zoom in. So if you look at the cello line there, it actually plays. So yeah, if you actually look at that, you know the cello has the main melody. But what is so? And also, if you look at the upper register, which is the top line, that's so you have 3 notes, right? This is just a simpler way of writing. Okay, violin 1, violin 2, and then viola, and they play just syncopations, right? I missed it. Oh no. Something like this. So it's already quite busy. And then you have the piano who is doing. I'm gonna have to play very slowly. And also I start with the cello, so I have to look at the cello and then do. Okay, I apparently cannot play this part. So plenty of stuff to learn. And at the moment, I don't think that the conductor wants us to play the whole thing. The whole thing is 40 minutes. I don't think people are going to run out of steam, myself included. They will. I think the plan is just to play the first movement, which, in my opinion, it shouldn't be that way. It should be, if you want to play something, you probably play, and you cannot play the whole thing, you should probably play the most famous moments of this, which is, you should play the 4th movement and then the 5th movement. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I thought, but then I'm not a conductor, I'm not in charge, so people do that. So if it might be interesting to actually also check out what the 5th movement looks like, because this 4th movement is basically an entire variation on the main theme, on the sort of the harmonious theme that you just heard. It's amazing that this entire melody is made up of triads. So that's just in D major. That's your dominant. This is pretty nice stuff. So the 4th movement, maybe you have heard of somewhere that was played. Or not the 4th, 5th, the finale. If you look at the opening line, so for those who are more familiar with Schubert's work, you may say, hey, the opening chord in the left hand of the piano and everybody else looks very similar to another important work, but I'm not going to mention what it is right now. So it's just the loud notes, but then it's followed with, okay, so here is also a conundrum naturally on the piano. Look at the first dynamic marking. So it says forte piano. So forte means loud, piano means quiet. So forte piano means you do loud and then you suddenly quiet. Yes? Now, the strings can do that. The strings, because they have one string to play, they can do strong pressure, large pressure, and then loosen the pressure, right? Because they can control the sound, the volume of one note. How am I going to do that with the piano? Now, the piano is one good thing, it naturally decrescendo. It does decrescendo. So now I hit this pretty hard, but you can hear now that it's not as hard as before, as the first time that I hit it. So it has a natural decrescendo. But it's a decrescendo. It's a gradual process. How is the piano going to achieve forte piano? How? It's a percussive instrument. So there's loads of ways to do this. So very clearly, that's also the who is that bastard? Beethoven. this is the opening of the Pathétique. It also says forte piano on that very first chord that you just heard. I've seen various memes online that you close the lid when you play it. You open the lid when you play this first chord, and then somebody has to help you to close the lid so that you sound quieter. But that's still not very good. So, of course, I've heard other versions of people trying to achieve the forte piano. So, they play with the pedal. And then they quickly loosen it, and then raise it again. So I'm gonna have to try this very hard. Okay, let me try this again. Oh my God. Well done. I mean, you get the idea. This is the fourth movement. There's going to be some pretty difficult part actually also for the piano, and they're all in unison. So whatever your right hand is doing, your left hand is also playing an octave lower. My left hand, as I know more about myself, is my left hand has weaker movement but better form. My left hand actually has a far better form than my right hand. My right hand can go flat, can go extremely flying, not very accurately, and but it has the mobility, but it sounds awful. And my left hand has better form, has better sounds, but it's less mobile. So this entire section, more classical work, is everything is hitting me in my weakness. So I will take this as a chance to improve. After 18 years, so the last time that this was played was 18 years ago. For somebody my age, it's usually not common to say that I have taken a break from something for 18 years, but apparently this work does. I've been in this business, casual business, for some time. Okay, so this is the current situation with my sort of classical music development. I'll be playing the Schubert Trout piano quintet with the school piano quartet. Okay, I don't want to play this at the moment. I think it's also I don't have a group here, so it doesn't sound very good. It's just what the work is. I didn't do any research because all my streams I don't prepare. I just come in and talk about stuff. I do recognize the difficulty because I have deficiencies in some of the stuff. So I can play slower works like all the Chopin Nocturnes I can probably pull, except the harder ones, except the difficult ones. Okay, so this is the current state of events with Schubert Trout. It will be on our list of discussion once I do a bit more research myself. So we can now, let's talk about something else. Okay, so we came from last time, we came from the Chopin Nocturnes, Opus 15. So if we really want to sort of adapt ourselves back in the ears of Chopin, it is how the 15 number 1, what it sounds like. Just something to keep you sort of, let's say, acquainted still with the work. Okay, so this is the opening of 15 number 1. It's very, it's almost addicting to play, so I'll try to steer away from the playing. Opus 15 number 2. Actually, I just discovered something, so I might share that with you. So let me open the score. So what I wanted to say first is, you look at the opening. So this is the Opus 15 number 1. We're back at this for a little bit. This is sort of the process that I call, oh God, what's the English translation? It's probably regurgitation. Is it actually called regurgitation? It's basically the process where the cow chews its grass in different part of his in different stomach. Because cows have multiple stomach, and they pass their chewed grass around. No, rumination. Is it called rumination? Maybe it is. Let me find the English translation of this. Okay, come on. Yes. Okay, so I guess rumination. So basically, just after you chewed it for the first time, you got to pass to another part of your body, and then you chew it again. So you got to look back. So this Opus 15 number 1, let's ruminate now. As you can see on the score, and we're not focusing on anything else. But if we have one discovery every day, then imagine that in 30 days, how many discoveries are going to have. Now, there's no guarantee that you have some discovery every day, but you try. Like when we sit down and think about things and we look at things, you try to have one nice things coming out of that study. And then we mark it. And then if it is spontaneous, like just now, no matter how, let's say, maybe obvious it is, it will eventually stick in your head. So what I'm trying to point out here is, let me get to the point, is look at the opening line and say, did Chopin actually give you an instruction of how loud you should play? So usually these instructions come from dynamic instructions. So for example, let me point out on this very page right now. So the little part that I circled, that says piano. And guess what? That's the first dynamic marking shown for this work. Chopin didn't say how loud you have to play or how soft earlier you have to play. He only said semplice e tranquillo. Semplice means simple, and tranquillo means tranquil, quiet. Or calm. It's not really quiet. It's calm. So if you're at a medium voice, but if you stay consistent with that voice, you're calm as well. So there was actually no clear indication of how loud you need to be, only until you get to a point where actually that point is important, because that's the reprise of this exact line with some varied form. Now, all of these, so whatever score that you're seeing right now on the screen is the Polish national copy of it. So it's a very official. It's one of the official published version of Chopin's work. They all came from Chopin's manuscript by hand. So it's actually what Chopin wrote on the page. What I'm reading myself on the piano board here is Urtext, the German company, and they do the same thing too, and they print it very well. They also didn't show any other thing. It's actually almost the same between the two. Okay, so no instructions of how loud you need to be. So this brings us a question, actually. Is it true that even when a piano is written, so when a dynamic marking is written, it actually means dynamics, or it means a little more than that? That's why. So is that why the composers typically don't use these dynamic markings to really just indicate a volume? So of course not. For those who have taken lessons in piano, of course your teacher will tell you that not every F, not every forte is created equal. Yes, you need the context so that the F stands out or becomes secondary when, let's say, fortissimo comes around. Yes. Okay. So that's a question. But what I'm observing here is simply the lack of dynamic indication at the opening. Now, I don't have the score with me over here. Or maybe I can pull something up. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the first scherzo by Chopin. It's very clear, right? At the opening, it says fortissimo. Yes? So go at it, right? I'm not going to play it because it's probably going to break the... probably going to be too noisy. And then you have sforzato, SF, which is an attack, yes? Sudden, an attack. Sure, it makes sense. So high, low, and then you go on. So Chopin gave you loads of dynamic indications here, yes? And then you have to play piano after the repeat sign. Okay, so these are very, even micromanaged indications. Relatively micromanaged to what you see here in terms of just dynamic marking alone. So this is one observation, is lack of dynamic indication at the first. I was just looking back myself here to look at other nocturnes. For example, in the Opus 9 Nocturne. So this one, it says very clearly opens with piano. The second well-known Nocturne, this one actually also didn't open with a dynamic marking. And then I go to the very first one. This one opens with piano. It says piano and says espressivo. Okay, so it seems that it is. These look like deliberate. What's the word? Chopin is not neglecting that. He has choices. For some work, he started with opening dynamics, and for some, he didn't. So now this is Opus 15 number 1. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is Opus 15 number 2, how it opens. It doesn't say piano. We have a tempo marking, larghetto, not so fast. We have a articulation requirement. It says sostenuto, so it means the notes should be sustained. You probably should YouTube search Rubinstein's 1975 Carnegie Hall concert. Or was it Carnegie Hall or was it Lincoln Center? Maybe it was Lincoln Center. So 1975, he is 89, he is almost blind. And he played a encore piece that was this nocturne. You should hear his opening line dynamics and tell me whether that's piano or that's actually sostenuto, which he did the proper intonation and articulation of the notes, but he didn't actually play very quietly. It sounded good. Where is my first indication? Here, in the second piece. Man, I couldn't find it. You have to go all the way down to here. Right here. So there's no indication like that as well. So this is what I'm saying that I have discovered. This is my simple discovery today. Is there is inconsistent opening instructions, sometimes in just words, sometimes in a dynamic marker. So if we're still not convinced, let's go to number 3. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says piano, languido, e rubato. So it gave you piano. It tells you play quiet, piano. I'm actually interested in seeing the notes right behind it because it says languido, but it has a star right next to it. I'm gonna look down there and see what this is talking about. So this is a side note that says on very small print screen, so I'm just gonna read it to you. It says, so remember earlier it was written piano, languido, e rubato. So 2 things, lazy, well, lack of energy, lack of spirit, and rubato means you're free with time. The note was saying Chopin erased e rubato in a pupil's copy. Like these little notes are like almost these also basically the side or the appendices of, let's say, a large historical work, and you look in there and you say, okay, you actually discover so much about the person. So you may start to say, okay, why did Chopin erase the word erubato? So I'm going to pull back. So in that student's copy, the student will only see piano and languido. So quiet and without spirit, without energy. I don't think Chopin trusts that student. I think it was instruction for that student to not play rubato because Chopin isn't very happy with that student's ways of doing rubato. So you know what? Just don't do anything. Just go play languido, which is more important than rubato, maybe. And only for the more skilled people who can play rubato, then you play rubato. Yeah, I don't know. Or it's an honest mistake that he just forgot to write erubato. He may have forgotten that when the published version that he sent out has erubato in there, he just forgot. But we don't know. We have to do further research to confirm that. But it's a very small point, right? It's a very small point. But actually playing with and without rubato differs quite a bit. Differs quite a lot. Quite a lot. Anyways, so that's a quick sort of a realization about what's at the start of each piece. Every time when you look at a piece, you try to identify patterns, and then but that's for a piece, and then you study the work of the one genre of that composer. So for example, in this case, a bunch of nocturnes. Okay, so you want to also observe, is Chopin consistent with his nocturne compositions? Or this inconsistent instructions at the opening of nocturnes. So, for example, we just saw that, right? First two, Opus 1 and Opus 15 number 1 and 2, they don't have a dynamic marking, so piano, forte, they have nothing. But they have English, they have Italian instruction. Tonality, on your intonation, on your articulation, on your interpretation even, right? Semplice, who says, okay, play simple. That's an interpretive instruction. So it comes down to the question whether this is a special treatment for nocturnes that he gives instruction when he wants to, but for nocturnes only, or is it actually Chopin's overall conception for his compositions? All compositions, not just one. So then you can quickly just take your nocturne book and say, okay, did Chopin do this very often with that? And then you start to look into other work. Chopin wrote other genre as well, mazurkas, ballades, scherzos. And see whether that's a consistent scheme or not. Because that can really tell you whether he is treating dynamic markings as true volume controls, or he meant something much more than that. Now, I do have my own feeling about it, because I know that every dynamic marking from, let's say, well-trained from proper composers whose name have lived up to this time, which is after 250 years, they actually mean what they write. So the dynamic markings is not only a volume instruction, but also a mood instruction. It makes no sense for Chopin in this very piece right now on the screen to write forte at the opening. He says forte and languido e rubato. There's no way that you can express lack of energy with a forte sound. Or find me that pianist and I'm gonna have to talk to that person. Make a forte sound out of energy. Bad playing, maybe. So yours truly, who can probably do a very uncommitted chord on forte, but it sounded kind of defeated. Okay, maybe that's my talent due to lack of skills. But the sort of the take home message here is piano is, or any indication is a mood indication as well. you have to take the context. You have to look into the context. So I don't know what to sort of learn afterwards because I still want. I mean, 15 Opus 15 1 through 3 is at least on my next concert program. So I will take some offline time to play them to learn them better. So I'm not going to do that here. I could go on because I do have an intention to basically record all nocturnes as sort of a lifetime goal. I don't see myself recording any other genre of Chopin, like definitely not the etudes. But I think nocturne probably fits under my finger a little better. They're not as aggressive. They don't require as much mechanical skills as needed. I mean, some of them do require some, but I can overcome these. Maybe the ballades, maybe the scherzos. I don't know at the moment. And this question will become increasingly more pessimistic as the days pass. But I could go on and just continue and just talk about the rest of the nocturnes. I did read through many of them. As you probably are aware from all my previous streams that I didn't talk as much, I played more. See how far I can read this one. I don't know how far I can read this one. I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna put the work on the screen. And Nathan, don't laugh at this because I know you play this. But I'm gonna read this. You're about to perform it, and I'm just gonna have fun here. All right. So unfortunately, I'm not going to turn the page for you, but you just turn the page yourself. Okay, enough butchery of this. So if I can read this one, this means I cannot read the next one. The next one is the more famous one, and I don't think I can. No, I'm not. So this would be a piece that you just saw earlier with Schubert's sort of the page is more black than white. So there are more notes on here, and so technical issues aside, I actually also learned a little bit myself about the piece just by playing through and having sort of my having this live business on here. Sort of, it's making me self-conscious. But I did recognize that there are some stuff that I didn't see before. So, the first thing is I was never certain how to do the opening crescendo. If you're looking at the score, you should see that there's a crescendo in the opening line. It's just the background drop, right? So this is just the backdrop, so it starts the piece, right? It's like so it's like when you're about to sing an aria, you need the opening, sort of the Alberti bass for you to prepare you. Now this is no opera here. This is no Mozart's operetta here. It just provides the mood, of course, right? And Chopin gave you the instruction, pianissimo, right? Pianissimo. Larghetto, so same, okay, not gonna say the same, but similar mood in terms of tempo as so similar tempo, similar pace. I actually never found a good way to play the opening. It has a crescendo into a decrescendo, right? I actually personally felt that my entrance today was actually not bad. Now, other things are bad. Actually, the entrance that I felt was probably the best one that I've played myself, that I'm more happy with than other ones. And then the entrance also, I didn't want it to feel that it's an entrance, like the right hand. So you play this. So I didn't want it to sound like an entrance. I just wanted it to be like something just blended in. You were making, like you can hear some stuff like in the backdrop, but you couldn't make sure what it is, and that made sure that you actually heard something, but it's still not very clear. I mean, that's my sort of, at the moment, the immediate take out of this. I might have spoken about this before, at other times, not here, but that's how I feel. So this is the opening part. Now, I mean, it's getting closer to 8 o'clock, so I'm not going to play more, but I'm just going to say a little more that this piece, as you can tell, the opening material does return. It does return at the end, right? So you may say that, hey, is this actually a ternary form nocturne? Like the ones that you heard some time ago, right? So and then you hear, then you heard this. Then you heard this. So that's your ABA form. That's a ternary form. And then you hear this. Whose middle part is. So something like this, right? So okay. So you did recognize that there is a ternary-like situation here. That's absolutely true. Now, because of my sort of butchery of the work, so I'm pretty sure that I lost contact with most of you for the middle part. So, okay. Make life easy. Just say, there's a very loud middle part. Yes, there is a very loud middle part. And there, after the loud part, there is actually a transition into something that you have never heard before. Never in this piece. Also has nothing to do with has no material item to do with the loud part. It's this. These are on the next page. In 3 also. Sounds like a dance. Sounds like a mazurka. Yeah, it's weird to have this. So, is this in the same spirit as how we started? The middle section? I don't think this is the same style, right? This is obviously trying to brew something that is also very intensive, right? This almost feels like, hey, Chopin is doing something like his earlier ternary form, something like a tempest, right? Something torrential. Hey, that works, and then transitions into something like a mazurka, which is never part of the deal. And then the mazurka finishes into a massive outcry, which I felt better with how I played it. Among the few parts out here. And then it came back into the opening, but then it turned into major key, so everything became a little brighter. So of course, this feels like a typical story of having cloudy skies, torrential rain, emotional outbursts, blah, 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 all that stuff. Thought about the mazurka dance, felt very nationalistic, and then, bam, came back to the same setting as cloudy skies, but then the cloud weaves them away, and then the sun comes out, but only a little bit of sun, so that's it. To sum up this piece very quickly, yes, I think this is pretty much what this piece is about. You can make as deep as you want to because we're kind of out of time now. So, hopefully, this nocturne can get us started about variations of ternary form for Chopin's nocturne. Because we obviously recognize that in the middle section here, it's not simple. It's not just a one-trick pony, right? Like Opus 15 number 1, where you just have bam, 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 bam in the middle, and then come back to the opening again. Not just that. It took a detour. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up today. We're tomorrow, if we have the time, tomorrow is Saturday, so I have the time, to explore something a little further on pieces that I can read. So likely not going to include 27 number 2. I should probably just tell Nathan to join here. We're gonna have to figure that out, how to join stream here, so that Nathan's voice is not delayed, so that he can just project directly into here. So we're gonna have to test that out, and then hopefully Nathan can play actually something that is legitimately correct. Because Nathan has 27 number 2 under his belt for a very long time, and it's on his next concert schedule as well. So we look forward to hopefully making this work. Okay, so enough of today, and Trout, Nocturnes, and we're gonna get more Nocturnes. Okay, so see you all